Late into its run, Muppets Tonight would really begin to play with its format, making several episodes that weren't really about your typical Muppet Show venture with a guest star and several acts. The back half of Season 2 would give us episodes like The Best of Muppet Tonight, a clip show, and the series finale, Johnny Fiamma Leaves Home, which, as you can see, isn't even named after the guest star featured, it's instead named after the plot running parallel to the show the Muppets are putting on. But easily my favorite of these experimental Muppets Tonight episodes is Season 2, Episode 8, The Cameo Show. The episode where the Muppets accidentally kill their guest star. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Mupptown Funk. I'm your host Ty, and on today's episode of Episode Insanity, we're taking a look at one of the weirdest Muppets Tonight episodes out there, and I am so excited. I've spoken multiple times on the channel about how much I want to do a video on this episode, and I'm so excited that I finally get to do it. So, let's get started. Muppets Tonight was sort of a spiritual successor to The Muppet Show that released in the late 90s, and much like its predecessor, Muppets Tonight would feature one celebrity guest star in each episode. However, unlike the original Muppet Show, Muppets Tonight would also feature frequent celebrity cameos in different episodes whenever they were relevant to a joke. For example, I've spoken in the past about how in Season 1, Episode 2, which guest stars John Goodman, there's a small cameo from Leonard Nimoy following a Pigs in Space segment. Another example of this is one of my personal favorite jokes in the entire series. In Season 2, Episode 7, which guest stars Dennis Quaid, we have a brief running joke explaining that Kermit isn't in this week's show because he had to take part in a contest where a fan gets to have dinner with him. And the winning fan ends up being Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh my God! I can't believe I'm meeting Kermit the Frog!
So as you can see, Muppets Tonight loved its cameos just about as much as the Muppets nowadays love their cameos. And in Season 2, Episode 8, they decided to fully capitalize on this with an episode all about cameos. Lo and behold, The Cameo Show. The cold open of this episode starts off like any episode would. Arsenio Hall is in his dressing room, and Bobo the Bear is super excited to meet his favorite comedian, who's dressed as a clown for some reason.
That's very flattering, Bobo, but I'm moving on. That's behind me now.
Oh, really? Oh, you're doing kids' parties, huh?
Actually, tonight, I'm playing the clown in the opera Pagliacci.
Oh.
Having Muppet Show guest stars not do what they're known for when they're with the Muppets is kind of a running joke across Muppet series, and I really like it here. Arsenio Hall starts belting out opera, and if this is really his voice, I am insanely impressed. This sounds really good. Actually, on second thought, I'm almost positive he's lip-syncing here. Unfortunately, Arsenio begins to come down with a cold, but Bobo has a quick solution. Bear Quill.
I never heard of this. Bear Quill?
Yeah, it's good stuff. My whole family uses it, trust me. Yeah.
Obviously a play on NyQuil, Arsenio makes the poor decision to, not read the label and just start chugging away at it.
Yeah, it's kicking in. Here it goes, hitting the lips. Yeah. There you go.
As Arsenio falls down onto the couch, we cut to the intro, which notably doesn't feature Kermit coming out and saying who the guest star is. For several of these episodes that featured multiple cameos instead of one guest star, they cut out that part entirely. After the intro, we get a rare case of an episode that starts backstage, picking up right where we left off, as the show's host Clifford, Bunsen, Beaker, and Rizzo break in, trying to find Arsenio. Bobo explains that he gave him some bear quill, but, well, things didn't really go as planned.
How much of that bear quill did you give him?
Oh, I just gave him a regular dosage,
Well, that is the prescribed amount for a 500-pound bear.
Yeah.
Oh man, Bobo, he's dead!
And there you have it. 3.5 minutes into this episode, the Muppets have killed their guest star. Good work, Bobo. You now have blood on your hands. Clifford starts freaking out because the guest star is dead and the show is supposed to start in 2 minutes. I love that those are treated like they're equal concerns. A man just died and also you can't put on your show. Rizzo suggests dumping the body outside and finding a new guest star, and Bunsen auditions Beaker, who apparently does an incredible Little Richard impression.
Ah, Beaker does a rather convincing impersonation of Little Richard.
Really?
What's this?
Good try, Beacon, but that is the worst impersonation of Little Richard I've ever seen.
This, of course, marks the second cameo of the episode after Arsenio Hall, and it's also, honestly, I think one of the funniest jokes in the entirety of Muppets Tonight. This one has stuck with me for years and years as one of the first jokes I think of when I think of this show. I think this is just such a funny cameo. Not knowing what to do, the group turns to the only person who they think can solve their problem, supermodel Kathy Ireland. Kathy, who's teaching a fitness class, picks up the phone and immediately accuses the Muppets of killing their guest star.
Hello? Hey, Kathy, we got real trouble here.
Let me guess, you killed your guest star.
Boy, are you good.
They ask her how she would get a guest star, to which she responds,
Gosh, if I needed a guest star, I'd try sitting poolside in a bikini.
Excellent idea. Beaky and I will get right on it.
Yes, this joke is paid off later.
We've been out here in bikinis all day and no one's paid any attention to us.
Kathy and her endless wisdom let the Muppets know that the only way they can get a guest star is to have a lovable talking bear go out on the street and find one, to which Bobo says,
That's it. I'll go get Fozzie.
Clifford doesn't like this idea since Bobo killed their last guest star, but Kathy thinks it'll be a great way to redeem him, and so Bobo goes off as Clifford starts the show. Late episodes of Muppets Tonight often had fun not only with the guest star appearances, but also with Statler and Waldorf, changing up where they appear. This time, they're watching the show on TV from a pool, the same pool that we'll see Bunsen and Beaker in bikinis sitting by later. Clifford comes on the screen to reveal that this week's episode of Muppets Tonight has been preempted until they find a new guest star. And in the meantime, they're going to run an ad from one of their sponsors. And oh my gosh, when I went in to make this video and rewatch this episode, I did not remember that this was part of it. Johnny's Pasta Playhouse is probably like my favorite sketch in the entirety of Muppets Tonight, and I completely forgot it was in this episode. Johnny Fiamma is one of my all-time favorite Muppets, and this is just such a funny sketch. I feel like just talking about it will not do it justice, but I'm going to try my best. Here we go, Johnny's Pasta Playhouse.
Hello, I'm Johnny Fiamma. How many times have you been watching a play, and by the second act you're thinking, boy, could I go for a nice plate of baked ziti right now?
So it seems Johnny Fiamma runs his very own Pasta Playhouse, complete with his monkey sidekick Salmonella, yes, that's his real name, acting as one of the waiters. And all this week, they're playing The Odd Couple, starring Dr. Phil Van Neuter and Mulch from Muppets Tonight's Tales from the Vet sketch.
Gravy? Oscar, where am I going to get gravy at 8 o'clock?
As Phil Van Neuter's performance falls apart, he gets hit in the face by a meatball.
All right, who threw that meatball? I'm not uttering another syllable till whoever threw that meatball comes forward. Mother, how could you?
This is another joke from this episode that's just always stuck with me. And, fun fact, the puppet used for Phil Van Neuter's mother is Zelda Rose, a minor character created for The Muppet Show. These two do look pretty similar, so I think it's pretty funny that they chose to have this character be his mother. You could actually see a better look at her in the earlier shot where Salmonella's passing the big ziti through the crowd. According to the Muppet Wiki, this episode is actually Zelda Rose's most recent on-screen appearance. She must have been so mad at how bad her son performed in The Odd Couple that she just straight up left the Muppets entirely. And of course, as Johnny wraps up the ad, singing the jingle for the restaurant, a grease fire bursts out.
Oh, what a place. Johnny's Pasta Playhouse.
Grease fire in the kitchen! Run! Save yourself, Johnny!
Save myself! No, save the prosciutto! Save the prosciutto!
The beginning of this episode is just hit joke after hit joke. There are really no misses here. I've honestly had trouble recapping this episode because I want to point out each great joke to you guys, and there are just so many. We're only 8 minutes in to this episode of Muppets Tonight, and I've talked about it for 8 minutes. That's crazy. And the great jokes just keep coming, with easily one of the darkest jokes in the episode. We see Clifford, Rizzo, and Zippity Zap, yes, that's his real name, carrying Arsenio's dead body when Kermit walks in with Christopher Darden and 2 police officers who he's giving a backstage tour to. For those of you who don't know, Christopher Darden is a former judge who was very well known at the time for being one of the co-prosecutors in the O.J. Simpson trial. This is an absolutely wild cameo to have while these guys are carrying a dead body. Insane.
So, what do you have in the bag? A dead body?
Yeah, we killed the guest star.
Make sure you get him into the freezer before he goes bad. He goes bad. No, really. What's in the bag?
After Darden leaves and begins his tour with Kermit, Rizzo, Zippity Zap, and Clifford drop Arsenio Hall off in the closet. But after they leave, Mulch and Dr. Phil Van Neuter show up, retrieving the body. As Van Neuter, I can't believe that's his name, as Van Neuter, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay. As Van Neuter wants to bring Arsenio Hall back to life on live TV and get famous from the millions and millions of viewers that'll watch it.
We will bring back to life Arsenio Hall in front of millions and millions of viewers! Oh, all right, maybe a couple hundred.
Outside, Bobo starts looking for guest stars and immediately bumps into Jay Leno, who auditions himself to be the show's guest star. But Bobo, of course, has no idea who he is.
Great, okay, so here's the plan. I'll stay here, and you work the other side of the street there, okay? Alrighty. Hey, Muppets Tonight!
We then cut to our first sketch of the episode, E-I-E-I-O-R. I've actually talked about all the installments of E-I-E-I-O-R in a past video, so I'm not really going to cover it here, but it seems that despite the lack of a guest star, Muppets Tonight is still continuing with its segments. I found this a little confusing because I thought they weren't supposed to, but afterwards we do see that Nigel, who's in charge of putting different stuff on the air, is completely freaking out because he has nothing to put on the air. That is, until Pepe walks up and tells him that everybody's ready for Tales from the Vet, which he starts playing. As you would expect, in Tales from the Vet, Phil Van Neuter and Mulch casually reveal Arsenio Hall's dead body to the audience, and Rizzo, Clifford, and Zippity Zap are horrified. Probably my favorite part of this is that when they reveal Arsenio's dead body, they start playing like a enthusiastic music riff and they start cheering like he was just a regular guest star walking on stage.
Mr. Arsenio Hall! Yes! Give it up! Give it up! Woo, 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 woo!
If there's one thing this episode does incredibly well other than its cameos, it's the dark comedy. The two use an electric device in an attempt to revive Arsenio Hall, which works briefly, but not all the way, so they decide to amp up the power, which sends him flying through the ceiling.
Oh, no.
Oh, that ain't good. Well, look at it this way, Clifford. Things are looking up.
Yeah, way up.
As the sketch ends, it seems Arsenio is still dead. In fact, possibly more dead than he was before, if that's even possible. We then cut to Bobo and Jay Leno once again, and these scenes honestly feel pretty repetitive to me. It's just kind of the same joke where, oh, Bobo doesn't recognize that there's a famous person right in front of him. Jay Leno does start to give Bobo hints, though, confessing that he's famous and he hosts some sort of late-night show, and Bobo's reactions to this are pretty funny.
I host a very popular talk show.
Oh, you're Rosie!
Not much to say about the next scene other than Phil Van Neuter pops up and confirms that Arsenio Hall is in fact still dead, and then Nigel cues up Real World Muppets. Real World Muppets is a sort of MTV reality show parody featuring several Muppet characters all living together in like a normal house setting and not getting along. It's another Muppets Tonight recurring sketch that only appeared 2 or 3 different times, and it's another one that I might focus a video on in the future. Honestly, it's one of the most 90s things to come out of Muppets Tonight, and that's saying something. Have you seen this show? Anyway, in this installment, Clifford attempts to hold a roommate meeting to fix the group's problems. The joke ends up being that all of the group's problems are caused by Bobo.
Last week I made a point of labeling all of my food, but someone still keeps eating it anyway. It says Rizzo's Rat Chow right on the box, is it? Hey, wait a second, that's one of them right there.
No, that's where you're wrong. If you look closely, it says Bizzo's Rat Chow.
Yeah, but your name is not Bizzo, it's Bobo.
Not when I'm eating Rat Chow.
Well, Bobo is really the show's punching bag for this entire episode, isn't he? Then again, maybe he deserves that. He did just kill Arsenio Hall. Then we have a Howard Tubman sketch, which is probably my least favorite recurring sketch on Muppets Tonight. It's about this rich pig named Howard Tubman and his butler Carter. And Howard Tubman is very rich and also very large, as you can see. And the entire joke of this sketch is that he's trying to use like a steam treatment to lose weight, which eventually results in him becoming this, which has been burned into my brain ever since I first saw this episode a decade ago. But after this sketch, the Muppets have once again run out of things to put on stage, so Clifford decides that he's going to confess to everything until Rizzo bursts in, telling him not to, because Beaker is on stage doing his Little Richard impression.
Boy, that Beaker does a great Little Richard, doesn't he, Beaker? Beaker!
After the number ends, it seems that everything has been resolved, although there's no explanation as to how Little Richard got there. But that doesn't matter. They've had a guest star now, he's performed a musical number, and Clifford is ready to wrap up the show, until Kermit busts in. He demands to know what happened to Arsenio Hall, but at that very moment, Arsenio crashes down back into the studio, awake and alive.
Could I talk to you for a minute, please?
Sure.
How Arsenio came back to life, we don't know. Maybe what Phil Van Neuter did actually worked, or perhaps Bear Quill didn't kill him in the first place and just knocked him out. I'm not sure, but it really doesn't matter. It's all just a big joke, of course. Arsenio Hall demands that he still wants to do his Pagliacci opera performance, and so he walks out carrying a bass drum ready to perform. But then Gonzo pops up, asking if anyone's seen the bass drum that he filled with C4 explosives. And just like that, we end the episode with Arsenio Hall once again presumed dead. An incredible final punchline. We do get one final scene for the episode, cutting back to the Bobo and Jay Leno subplot, where Jay Leno finally reveals who he is, and Bobo says it still doesn't ring a bell, and then Kevin Eubanks shows up, Jay Leno's Tonight Show guitarist, who Bobo does recognize and is a huge fan of, with the joke being, how does he not recognize Jay Leno, but he recognizes his guitarist?
Well, you know him, but you don't know me?
Well, yeah. He's my favorite guitarist. Hey, I got all your CDs, Kevin.
Thanks, man.
You'd be a perfect guest for Muppets Tonight.
I would?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And with that, we cut to the credits, featuring some fun bloopers from the episode, including one that confirms that, yes, Arsenio Hall was lip-syncing Pagliacci. And there you have it, guys, the Cameo Show, one of my personal favorite episodes of Muppets Tonight. It's honestly even funnier than I remember. Those first 10 minutes of it are absolutely non-stop hilarious. The comedy is weird and funny and shockingly dark. The cameos are great. I think a lot of the sketches we get in the back half of the episode are on the weaker side, but Johnny Fiamma's Pasta Playhouse at the beginning is probably in my top 3 sketches for the entire series. It's great. If you haven't checked out this episode, I would highly recommend it. It is an absolutely hilarious one. Unfortunately, Muppets Tonight isn't like on Disney Plus or anywhere else like that, for that matter, but several people have ripped this episode and several others to YouTube. If you want to check those out, they are super easy to find. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Episode Insanity. Let me know what other Muppet series episodes you'd like me to talk about down in the comments. We'll see you guys next time. Bye now. Also, tell me who would win in a fight, Bobo or Bizzo.